Good morning to you. You're not going to try and claim to be the party of business and investment now, are you?
Well, we certainly are the party of business and investment. I mean, look at what the chairman of Tesco, John Allen, said recently. There's only Labour on the pitch when it comes to growth. But what these findings show us is, look, it's been another disgraceful few days for the Conservative government. Resignations again, more scandal. And I know it looks like a soap opera, but the serious point about this is this kind of political uncertainty leads to further economic uncertainty. That means the economy is not fulfilling the potential that it has. And that's my frustration. That's why I want to get rid of this government entirely. Let's get on to new ideas, fresh ideas. Let's get this country moving as it should do. But it's not going to do that. And the fact that so many businesses just cannot plan for the future under this government, I'm afraid, is testimony to their failure.
OK then, Jonathan, how would Labour fix this then? How would you make business better for people? How do you make it easier for people to invest?
Yeah, well, there's three specific things I'd like to tell you about this morning. The first is having a proper industrial strategy, the kind of thing we see in Germany and France, long-term institutions to give people clear policy stability to drive up business investment. Then I think you've got to remove barriers to investment. I think business rates are a huge part of the problem in the UK. We think we can better balance taxation between online trading and physical premises. That's a key part of the plan. And then much greater investment in skills, more flexibility around the apprenticeship levy, which has led unfortunately to a massive drop in the number of apprenticeships in the UK. Okay. Skills and labour are massive problems in the UK. Those three specific things, there's more to do, but that'd be a very good start.
Yeah, but with respect, you know, you talk about barriers to investment. What would be a barrier to investment? It would be going after people with non-dom status, wouldn't it? We've seen that happen in France. Francois Hollande tried it. They all packed up sticks and came over to the UK. If you go after them, you take the wealth creators, you take the investors, the people that spend their money and create business here in the UK.
Well, I would have to politely, very strongly disagree with you there and direct you to the study into non-DOBs and the tax status done by the LSE, the university in London, about what happened when we've seen restrictions in the past on non-DOM status. And they showed that people didn't leave the country. But I disagree. I completely, on a moral basis, object to the fact you can pay for a different tax rate in the UK. I think that is not a helpful thing. But if you look at what the study has shown, it will bring in over £3.2 billion to abolish non-DOM status, and we would use that money to expand the NHS workforce. Massive benefits for the UK of tackling the huge backlog we're seeing in the NHS and giving people some real capacity to deal with the problems that we're seeing. So look, I think the evidence doesn't support what you've said, and I think, of course, you always need tax rates which are competitive, but the non-DOM status we have in the UK is not to the benefit of the country overall.
I wanted to ask you about another issue in the papers this week. It's been over the issue of ID cards. There does seem to be a little bit of confusion in the ranks of the Labour Party as to whether you support these or not. Stephen Kinnock said that they should certainly be on the table in a way to control migration, and he points to them being used in EU countries. But that was slapped down by Yvette Cooper, who said that they shouldn't be used and they're not being considered as part of your strategy. So what are your thoughts? I was hoping you'd kind of clear up this confusion. Should we be cataloguing everyone in the country? Because there will be concerns from our viewers and listeners that, you know, this could impact on civil liberty.
Well, I think Yvette Cooper has laid out the position there. We don't have current plans for ID cards. But I think the legitimate point that Stephen Kinnock was raising is, I mean, there are already considerable obligations on businesses, on landlords, to make sure people have the legitimate right to be in this country. And I think, unfortunately, we're not seeing that sufficiently enforced. And that is a particular issue in terms of, there's lots that clearly needs to happen to make sure we have an immigration system that is fit for purpose after 12 years of Conservative failure. But frankly, we're not seeing the kind of checks take place often that needs to happen. So I think it's legitimate to point that out, but it's not part of our current policy plans at the moment.
Gavin Williamson stood down yesterday evening. What are your thoughts on bullying in Westminster more broadly? Is it a problem that needs to be addressed? Of course, Liam Byrne being suspended from the Labour Party in April over bullying allegations.
I think Gavin Williamson is a specific case of someone who should never have been reappointed to government. I mean, his record is 3 appointments under 3 different prime ministers, 3 resignations in disgrace. I mean, clearly everyone in every walk of life should be abiding by the proper employment procedures and making sure they are acting in the way that we would expect of anybody, and in public life the bar should be even higher. But I'm afraid with Gavin Williamson, that's a specific case of somebody who should never have been appointed to government, a terrible reflection on the judgment of the Prime Minister, because he was already under investigation for this when the appointment was made. And to me, why these people appointed to government? Well, it's because that's the Conservative Party, and there's no way any Prime Minister can forge a majority out of what we see in Parliament from the Conservative Party without taking these risks, and that is why they're incapable of providing the stability the country needs.